All right. Thomas Walkup, Sport Jersey Advertisements, Marketing 475. And Dr. Reese, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this paper and working with me through, you know, not the easiest of roads and, being back home, it's been busy. So I appreciate you really working with me on this and helping me through it. So without further ado, let's get into it. The introduction. Whenever I found out this was, going to be a class for international marketing, I knew immediately what I wanted to do. This is something that has kind of been on my mind as far as how much money goes in and out of clubs and in and out of advertisers' hands throughout a EuroLeague season in specifics. But first, before we kind of get into that, we need to talk about some of the things we're going to talk about today. How much does it cost a company to put a logo, on the team's jersey? A domestic company versus an international company, a EuroLeague uniform versus a NBA uniform, the differences in money throughout leagues in Europe. And then also in between soccer and basketball is also something we'll dive into. All have very, very exciting numbers, I think, and something that was entertaining to me. So first, before we kind of get into this, we need to understand European basketball a little bit. Now, a lot of people think that when you go overseas, you just kind of go over there. Every team is kind of the same. Everybody has the same budget. You're out in the middle of nowhere. That's not the case at all. There are a couple of different things that we'd have to dive into. Domestic and international are the two competitions. So a domestic team would play, in their league, and those games usually are played on the weekend. So there's depending on the country, some teams or some countries have 5 different leagues. So obviously you want to be up in the first league, and so you would play other teams within that same country and within your same league on the weekends, and then during the week, most of the teams in the top half of the league would play in something called an international competition. So there's 4 different international competitions. There's the FIBA Europe Cup. There's Basketball Champions League. There's 7 Days Euro Cup. And there's also Turkish Airlines EuroLeague. So that was listed from the bottom up, and as you go up that list, with Turkish Airlines EuroLeague being the top dog in Europe, money grows exponentially, fans grow exponentially, salaries for players grow exponentially. So this is definitely where you want to be. And I thought this was so cool for me to write about, because this is, I was able to play in Turkish Airlines EuroLeague this year. So I, as we hopped from country to country, I was able to see different advertisements, different cultures, what stuff was up on billboards, and I'm no marketing genius, but I was able to notice things and pick up on some things, and I thought it was very interesting. Now, EuroLeague locations and viewership. The coolest thing about EuroLeague is the places you get to play, in my opinion. You have all the top cities in Europe. You have Istanbul, Madrid, Barcelona, Milan, Munich, Tel Aviv, Moscow, Athens. Those are just to name some of the few. You have 9 countries in total. So as a jersey advertiser, you're definitely getting your name out there, not just in your country, but also all across Europe. So if you're interested in international marketing, this is obviously where you want to be. Now, for viewership of EuroLeague, we'll dive into this a little bit later, but basketball will never be as big as soccer in Europe. It's how it is. It's definitely growing, year by year, especially with how much the NBA is doing right now. But in general, it will never catch, soccer. But that being said, this year overall, EuroLeague competitions, there was 2.1 million tickets sold, which is pretty good. I was lucky enough to play for a club named Žalgiris, and we sold out every single home game, 16,000 fans. So I think that was very special, very cool, but also from a marketing standpoint, we are not as big of a club as some of the other likes of Real Madrid, of Barcelona, and so for us, to sell out like that, that's great for the advertisers. That's what they want to see. We always had the most viewership on television. So it's very cool for the advertisers to get that for a lower budget club in the league. Now soccer versus basketball, I touched on this a little bit. How it will never reach the popularity within Europe, but here in the States, the NBA is thriving, absolutely thriving, and there's money flying around everywhere within the NBA. You see it with the contracts that players are getting right now throughout free agency. It is, I think players from the '90s, would never think that teams would be able to pay this much. But with that being said, StubHub paid the Philadelphia 76ers, $5.5 million to have a 2.2-inch patch right on their jersey this year. Meanwhile, in Manchester, Chevrolet paid $10 million for them to slap an enormous Chevrolet logo right on their chest. And so when you think about the size and how much your logo is being seen, the NBA logo was actually more expensive, for the size of it and how much they actually paid for it. So I thought that was interesting with how popular soccer is over here. But I do think that money in Europe will continue to grow with soccer. You see it with the incredible players like Messi and Ronaldo. Their popularity grows day by day. So next, we'll get into United States versus Europe. This is very key for the international advertisers. So yeah, there's NBA games aired, on NBA.com. There's Game Pass, all sorts of platforms for people to watch the NBA worldwide. But the NBA does not travel from country to country. They hit Canada once a year, and then they're in the United States for the rest of the time. In Europe, it is very different. Obviously, the one thing I've been blown away with over here is how you can hop in a car in Spain. You can drive 2 hours. You can be in France. You can drive 3 more hours. You can be in Italy or Germany. So I think and something very neat about that experience is you have very, very different cultures, different food, language, what people like, dislike, all, it's very, very different in all these countries. And I think that that is something that the NBA misses out on a little bit, because as international advertisers, you want to get your name out in as many countries as possible, and that's what sponsors of EuroLeague are able to do. Now the NBA versus EuroLeague viewership. Clearly, the NBA is the best league in the world. EuroLeague is considered the second best league in the world, but is quite a huge drop off in between. So for EuroLeague this year, in 2016, between China, the United States, and the rest of the world, EuroLeague reached over 12 million global viewers, which is pretty good. Until you hear that for the for the NBA in the 2016-2017 season, they reached over 1.2 million viewers per regular season game, with an average of 20.4 million total viewers during the finals in 2016. So clearly a huge drop off there. The money is obviously a huge problem for EuroLeague. When